how do you sum up that game? The third nail biter out of 3. What do you think was the difference against you guys this time?
Yeah, another close one. What was the difference? I mean, you could break it into the 4 innings of the game, really. There's some margins, some areas where we can no doubt improve, and a little bit of credit goes to England. At certain times they got the conditions in their favour and they maximised those, and I thought yesterday really went a long way into deciding the fortunes of today. I think difficult batting conditions, they maximised them with the ball, and put us probably in a position where we didn't have enough runs to probably be as creative as what we'd like, but geez, we had a hell of a crack at defending it. It was great to see.
It's become quite different Test cricket, hasn't it? Like you look at those 7 deliveries to Wood, and I mean, sort of changed the nature of the game in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it did. I think, the short ball's been used more regularly in this series than I've ever seen before, and with the short ball comes the risk of runs, and that can sometimes happen. So shorter boundaries, faster outfield, and the short ball probably didn't reap the same rewards with the lower order as what it has, but I still think it's going to be a plan that's employed throughout the series.
Does it change the way you sort of communicate with Pat, or have to communicate with Pat? Because you've really got to stay on your toes, can't you? You can't really drop the ball for an over or 2 overs.
Yeah, nothing's really changed in terms of our communication. It's pretty regular on and off the ground. Anything we see there, Pat encourages us to communicate with him out there and vice versa. So I think it's all hands on deck in terms of reading where the game might go and what tactics will be used, and we sort of set most of the plans in the morning and then sort of go from there once we get new information.
Andrew, the approaches to the tail end batters by England v Australia in this game were pretty different. Obviously they've got Mark Wood who's a little bit quicker, but they were very much aiming at the stumps a fair bit of the time, as opposed to obviously someone like Travis Head, they were doing something very different. But do you think that balance, you could get that a little bit better?
I think if it works, you say that it's right, and if it doesn't, then you're probably on the opposite side of it. So I think it's a combination. It's always somewhere in the middle of that. And I think day one, Mark Wood, had good ball speed, and the ball was shifting. The overheads were pretty thick, and you tend to pitch the ball up a lot more in those conditions. And when the sun comes out and the ball's not shifting as much, you've probably got less options on the fuller side. So we've got to always balance that. And we critique ourselves pretty harshly, so we'll be looking into that, no doubt.
On some of the other tours, you've had clear mantras, like in Pakistan, the 15-day tests, and finding a way in Sri Lanka and even India. With this, has this been perhaps the most challenging series to plan your tactics to, just because of the different way England play and how it's unfolded? It seems to move in a different sort of way.
It moves fast.
Well, okay, that too.
No, the games move fast against England, and there's no doubt that you've probably got to be a bit more dynamic in terms of your communication and your planning, and you probably just have more regular checkpoints. But in terms of what we did leading in, the themes, the mantras, it's a lot of the same for us. We want to do things to our strengths, but also respecting the opponent and what we need to do and shift at certain times. And I think we've been pretty good at that. I mean, this is another close game that potentially could have went either way as well. So England are a tough team to beat here, and we haven't won here since 2001. So 2-1 up at this stage with 2 to go. We like the position that we're in, albeit we've got plenty of work to still do.
Andrew, has Mitch Marsh made it impossible to leave Melbourne excess?
It's made a pretty good case. It's pretty strong. I thought he was outstanding this game. Bit of luck in that first innings, but took that. He was positive, showed great intent. He's a fine player of the short ball, so there's a lot to like about how he matches up against England, and I thought he was impressive with the ball as well. And he's done that before in England with the ball, so that's nothing new.
Is it just a case of him beat Cameron Green for a spot better, or are there other ways you could do it? I mean, obviously, we've seen a situation in the past where an open moves on, David Warner, for example, or another bowler, sort of in that situation, how you do it? Sorry, I rambled there, but essentially, is it just
I got sort of. I heard the sirens. I was like, I was trying to think of the answer. There's not a straightforward answer, really. Cameron Green's important to the structure of the team as well, with his all-round capabilities, and he was left out. It was sort of a touch and go situation with a minor hamstring, so he's going to be fully fit and available for Manchester. So there's nothing to hide there. So we've got a decision to make. It's going to be tough.
Going on with that, can Mitch Marsh open the batting fiesta?
He did pretty well down the order, middle order, so to put him up to open in English conditions would probably be something that we haven't discussed yet, but we do have some time between now and the next test.
Given that you've got that time, do you have to, and missed out on some top order runs here, do you look at, is it a technical thing that you do, or do you have to consider personnel changes heading into the next one?
You've also got to reflect on what the opening partnership's been able to do across the 6 innings, and there's been 350 plus partnerships in there. So, albeit it didn't function to its level here, in some eyes, it's done well so far in the series. So, as I said, we've got a lot to consider and a lot to weigh up, and Mitch Marsh has put a question to us, no doubt.
How's Steve going, Ronnie? Like, you don't often see him kind of snap back with the best. I think, like, I know it probably didn't seem like anything all that nasty or anything, but that was unusual, wasn't it? How's he kind of going as a batter, as a person?
I don't think it's unusual for him to snap back or gesture or wave his hands in certain directions. I think that's all part of Steve's sort of makeup. So he just turned around and clarified to Johnny, what was that? And there was a question in the manner in which he snapped around. I think sometimes he does that in his mannerism. So he's going well. 100th Test match, great achievement by Steve. He's 1 game removed from a century under the leaden skies at Lords, so I think he's in a really good place, catching well. Thought some of his slips catching this game was impressive, and he's really important to Pat Cummins in navigating through strategically. So there's no issues with Steve.
Does the break kind of come at a good time for him and Marnus as well, guys who want to get in the nets a lot and trying to tell them to take it easy?
I think the break comes at a good time for the coaches, with those two wanting to have a hit. So I don't think it comes at a good time for Steve and Marn. If they had their way, we'd be playing cricket every day. But we definitely need a break from the nets as coaches with the volume. But we're looking forward to the break and really encourage the guys to head wherever they need to refresh and decompress. And we'll get back in together at the 14th with some, and others will come back on the 16th, and we'll be ready for the next Test match.
There was a period, Andrew, where we kind of got used to Marnus scoring big runs in most series. He's had a leanish run by his time, which was 250 in the last 21, and he seems to be changing, tinkering with his card and all of that, which is also kind of used to. But is it becoming a worry, like the fact that he's not able to convert those starts, not just for him but you guys as well?
I think the starts are the important part. I think if you can get a start and you can show that your method can stand up to the challenges, then it's probably a little bit more of the same when you go through the innings. Maybe he's trying to expand at certain times when he doesn't need to, and that's a conversation that he'll be having with himself and the coaches. I think if you're not getting starts, that's more of a concern. If you're actually getting starts, it shows that your method can work. In regards to the tinkering of his technique, I think that's more Marnus in the lead up to any game. But when he gets out there, Mel, when he gets out there, the pre-movements are pretty much the same as what they've been. Is he covering off stump more to certain bowlers? There's no doubt about that, but that's a one-on-one sort of match-up, and that's been well thought out. So I'm pretty confident that there's plenty of runs left in him, and the starts to me are the positive, not the negative.
England clearly aren't batting very long in any innings. Do you need a spinner, given Todd didn't bowl that much here?
Yeah, we like a spinner, and I think I was on the record in saying that in the lead up to this match. We like to have a balanced attack. Gives you options. You can take pace out of the game, and I think if you become one-dimensional, whether it be with right-arm bowlers or just pace bowlers in general, without the ability to turn to a spinner, I think that leaves you a bit short at times. And I think England played a very aggressive side here with Moen at 7 and 4 quicks, but they sort of valued the spin as well to change the pace of the game. So I think that we'll have to assess that, but as it sits at the moment, we do like to have a spinner in the team.
Obviously a bit of a spiteful test last week, and we know a week on it. Have you and Baz sort of settled things at all?
Yeah, we're speaking, and we always have been. So we had a catch up in and around the games. I think the game once again was played in good spirits. The crowd probably wasn't as hostile as what we anticipated. So I think people have moved on, and the game moves on. I think let the cricket do the talking from now on. I think it's been a fantastic series, 3 great games, and may that continue. Maybe just make it a little less stressful for the coaches. I think that would be nice.
Did the catch-up involve beer?
No, not yet. Not yet. So I hope he hasn't cancelled the beers, but we'll see what happens in the future.
And just one on Mark Wood. He's obviously a huge factor in this game. It was probably a little bit of a surprise that he didn't play the first test of the series by all accounts. So how do you assess the way that you guys played him here, and how much can you do about that versus, I suppose, hoping that it's a slower pitch next game?
I think the plans that we had leading in, they'll remain the same. It's about executing it. And as we said before in the first innings, he was swinging the ball at pace, and that's always a challenge for top order, lower order. You can plan for things, but when you get out there, you've got to be able to adapt and adjust. And maybe we didn't do that in the first innings. I think 5 for 34 suggests that he won the day. Going forward, we're going to be challenged with that. He's a good bowler. He gives them variety in their attack, and yeah, I think if we can put a few overs into him, we saw that the ball speed can drop off a little bit, but when he's got his tail up, he's going to be a handful. So I think deny him any opportunities to making inroads, and yeah, keep them out there for a bit longer.
What do you make of Scott? Sorry, is that right? What do you make of Scott Boland in this test? Obviously, after the first test, you said there were probably adjustments that need to be made given how England treated him. What do you make of this one? And how he reacted, I guess.
Yeah, I thought he kept them in their crease. I mean, in the first game, it was more about the way that they used their feet to him. I think he was able to keep them at home a lot more often. I thought he bowled well, went past the edge a lot. Could have been a different game. Didn't have much luck. French cut there today. Yeah, so sometimes it doesn't go your way, but as a collective, I thought the way that our bowling unit functioned was very impressive.
Andrew, there was just a few questions earlier about selection and referring to the opening partnership with Dave. Just for clarity, will Dave's place be reconsidered in the next test?
I think we've got everything to consider in terms of Mitch Marsh coming in, what the balance looks like, our all-rounders, and there'll be an assessment of the players at the back end of this test. We've got a big break, so you would say that most of the bowlers should be fit and available. We've got Josh obviously missed this one, so he'll be ready to go for that test match. And yeah, we've got an extra batter who's put his hand up, and we'll have to consider the options ahead.
Ben Stokes said that Moeen Ali came to him and McCullum last night and asked if he could bat at 3 today. What would you do if your number 7 asked you that?
Well, he's opened before, our number 7. He opened in Brisbane, didn't he? So he's been high up the order, but yeah, not sure. Hypothetical, but nice one, look.
Cheers. You love a hypothetical.
Oh, I love